Okay, call to order, please.
Chair Blackwelder,
Here.
Director Campbell,
Here.
Director Ferlito,
Here.
Director Askew.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we get any type of communication? Public?
Yes.
No, we didn't.
Mhm.
Is that in writing or?
Oh, no, did we receive any? No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so number one, is approve the June 7th. Personnel committee minutes. So, let's move approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Do we need a roll call or just all in favor or?
You do need a roll call.
You need a roll call
All
because
right,
it's virtual.
roll call.
Director Askew,
Aye.
Director Ferlito,
Aye.
Director Campbell.
Yeah.
Chair Blackwelder,
Yes.
motion passes.
And item 2 is discussing a white paper recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. At this point, I'd like to introduce the white paper item. At our last white paper discussion that we had presented, we had a preliminary white paper completed, which was a general geographic for California of how the waste industry kind of operates and how it's dictated, some in county, some out of county. And we're working on the second part of the narrative that we introduced at the last committee meeting, which introduced ReGen's pathway to its current state of where it is in its current business and the direction of the organization. So Guy's taken the lead on this item. He's really taken a snapshot of several decades of critical decisions that were made by the board to get us to where we're at today in the current economic state we're in, where we're taking member agency volume and outside member agency volume and creating our organization with those decisions and pathways. So he does have some questions that he wants to ask on this committee so that he can get us a draft paper that would come to the October meeting and a draft that would wind up at the board meeting in October as well. And then we could finalize a final in November. We have an opportunity, and the last discussion at the last finance committee around this item that I thought was really important was what was the intent of the draft paper? And you know, as I recalled and shared with the last committee was, it wasn't a starting point for some of the board members that reside that are new to our organization and some of the dynamics that have occurred over the last 2 decades. We give them a starting point, and it would give the board a reference point that's equal across the board for every board member to identify items that occurred in the past that got us to the current state. And it was really an item that continued to come up in discussion as we set rates, or we look at introducing contracts or volumes that were coming from outside of the area, whether it was recycling, organics, or refuse. We would always seem to circle back to the same question: is why and how come are we taking outside material from outside of the county, and what does it represent? So this is the second feat, which is representing ReGen's current state. And we have a couple of questions that Guy wants to follow up on, and then we could just take it to the timeline and really get a draft completed for the October committees, board meetings, and then get a final for those same committees and the board. So pretty excited that we're nearing completion on the white paper.
Directors, as we mentioned, looking for your feedback on the question around the presentation. We could reference the first part of the presentation is more a state level look at what happens with solid waste in California. And the takeaway there is that there's limited control on waste movement, and waste is moving in and out of counties based on mainly on the facilities that those wastes need to be processed at. And, the second part of the white paper was a district focus version. It presents a history of conditions here at the landfill, mainly around the landfill disposal, which began as primarily servicing member agencies. You know, when it opened in late 1965. And that was the case maybe for the first decade or so, and then began to transition to represent more and more other customers outside of the member agency. And you know, in the mid 2000s, after a fee increase was denied, and the board directed staff to go back to find solutions to address increase in revenues and diversification in activities to kind of solidify the financial aspects. That was a significant instrumental change at that point in time. And so the evolution of additional customers began more directly from that board direction. So by 2009, we had regional customers, you know, with 30-year contracts from County of Santa Clara, County of Santa Cruz. 2013, the County of Santa Clara residuals, you know, from post-processing came into the mix after the member agencies, or 7 member agencies adopted a franchise agreement with the same company. That was going to collect waste in our member agencies. And you know, we've seen some increase since then, and we've also illustrated the benefits of the diversity of customers and their revenues kind of providing a solid financial base, you know, in the interest of the member agency. So there's a fair amount of financial support from other entities that are gaining the benefits of the services here. The question for you is whether there's a desire for presentation of the evolution of publicly owned solid waste facilities. Because in America, there's been a decreasing trend of publicly owned solid waste facilities for you know, most of this same period of time since the landfill opened here at the district. And the relevance is that the public entities are experiencing higher costs. First on prevailing wage requirements, and then on the administrative approach to doing business tends to have a little additional cost compared to private entities. And also the limitations of their service area. In a lot of cases, public agencies were just providing their services to their municipality, like City of Santa Cruz does. They have collection and processing that they do with their folks. And, you know, it's significantly different or at a different price level, significantly higher price level than district services. And it's a confined market. And it's self-confined because they define that they're just gonna provide services in their municipality. So, is there interest for presentation of those kind of circumstances in the white paper? Alongside part 2, which is presenting the district's history. You want to put a context of the district history with a great, you know, with evidence from other sources that are outside of it.
My short answer would be no. I couldn't give you, I mean, I feel like it's entering into the kind of like the politics of private versus public. Do those things more efficiently kind of thing, you know. And I'm just, I'm not, that's the short answer is no, I don't. I think it's more notable that we are in the lowest, you know, we provide our rates in the lowest quartile for the area or whatever. That's notable, and we are actually quite efficient as a public agency. Yeah, I'm just more interested in the implications of, and I know we've touched on this already, but the implications of importing materials and exporting as well, but how it's going to affect our long-term volume. I mean, that's for me, it's lowest hanging fruit is to sell space in the landfill to whomever. But I'm more interested in the longevity, the impacts, both environmental and economic, of course, for importing from, as now it sounds like, from a lot of private entities too, as where it's we're actually going to be dealing with the private entities, and there could be a pretty good market for that. And other landfills are going to be closing down, and it's not easy to open one these days. I think we're going to become more and more valuable all the time.
And I think it'd be useful to focus on the district presentation in part 2. I would note that, you know, even though we provide service to private companies, they are usually contracted for a municipality. And so we are essentially providing the same service that we provide for our member agency communities to other municipal communities who have the same requirements of the state to achieve. I think as directors, it's a capacity issue here at the district. Is there sufficient capacity beyond that for our member agencies that we represent? I think that's where the line of questioning starts. We have the excess capacity, which the board has identified that it does, and has entered into a contract with Green Waste Recovery for the post-processing residuals from San Jose for a limited term. They've kind of answered the question for the time being, but I think that's where the interest is for directors, is to, you know, represent their oversight internally to their own agency community, and that once that's been confirmed that their capacity is available to sell to others, to then represent the organization's financial interests in around monetizing that asset.
And my comments are just, you know, a little bit more simplistic. Is we're gonna have the basis of how we got here. The board will still decide when not to release those additional volumes from outside, I think is the same thing Guy is saying is we can decide that as we normally do through the board. We'll have awareness of those items being more available to us when we want to have a discussion with our constituents. Your reference is gonna be the same as mine and the same as Jerry's and the same as Director Perdido. Our reference points are gonna be more common than they are today is the result of the white paper. It's not really to define our next moves, it's to define how we got here and those reference points to whether the public or to another agency, that they're the same. And we usually tend to grab in our bag what is most common for us on that reference. Now we'll have a document that we can say, this is historic. It has time and time dates and time frames and decisions made by this board to get us where we're at. So I think we're there, and I'm very supportive of Jason's is this focus on ReGen, get it completed, and if there's additional findings that we need, we can do that at the time of finalizing the draft. Thank you.
Somebody else does it. I'm not the only one.
Back to the last slide that had the bullets of what the topic areas are going to be. Yeah, this one. And I think I just want to reiterate a few of Jason's points around to the degree that we can add some reference to, I mean, I guess the historic service of fees and like the long-term planning for this site, like how, like the mission of our district and the commitment of our board and the value of local control towards ensuring long-term planning that meets the needs of our member agencies, that like somehow highlighting that there's like, what is the value of having a locally controlled landfill so that we can control our future in some regard. So that I think we need to have some reference to that in here. And then the other point around, again, maybe part of the value proposition of having a locally governed and publicly governed landfill is that we can, and we do, and our mission defines us as caring about some of the aspects of environmental justice and waste reduction advocacy. That needs to be a part of this somewhere so that we can all be on the same page for that. And I think so the public can very clearly see that it's not just, this is what happens across the state, so therefore it happens, we're part of that system, or what our practices have been. We need to be very clear about why it's so important that we retain this local control and how it benefits our communities. That'd be my only thought about adding it. And I really look forward to seeing the document and starting to, I think, hash through it a little bit more, but this is a great start. And I think it'll be a valuable tool for all of us.
Those are great points and a great message to convey, I think, to have to, whatever, to justify a little bit of what we as a board do. I think that's great.
The schedules bring a document back to the committees in October, and then take depending on committee guidance, take a document to the board at some point after that committee meeting. And we could potentially produce a draft for one board meeting and then seek feedback and produce a final for the second board meeting, if that's a desired process.
Sounds reasonable. I'm sorry that Bruce isn't here. I mean, I know he's tries to be involved, but he was, I think, the original person who mentioned white paper way back when. So I want to be sure he has a good opportunities to see it and comment on it too. So I think that's a great plan, the draft, and then hopefully come back with a final at the following meeting.
We can share that.
We should be able to share the draft once it's ready, right? In advance.
Yeah, with a no reply. Approach, yeah.
Thank you guys for the feedback, right in line with first.
Yeah, right.
Next is report on employee survey.
Thank you, Chair. At this point, we have Director Torres to be giving an information only report on employee survey.
Good morning. So the district has been performing or conducting employee pulse surveys for the last few years. And after a 5-year hiatus, we resurrected the same survey that we rolled out in 2018 to assess the employee sentiments in the same areas, the same questions. In the memo, I indicated that the questionnaire design included 10 of the ranking questions and 2 open-ended. There were 12 of those questions, of the ranking questions, and for a total of 14. So that was a typo on my end. The results are included in the packet that you received, and I think indicate that generally employees are feeling good about their experience at ReGen and the direction that the organization is taking. The results also tell us that there's a lot of pride, at least in part from the participants, which I'm happy to report that we've had a pretty high percentage of employees participate, with the caveat being that the bulk of these employees are from the MRF department. And the reason for that is that the MRF does house the majority of the district employees, and the supervisor and manager there decided this year that they were going to allow time for the employees to complete it, rather than just provide the form and allow them to complete it at their own leisure. So during the beginning of the shift huddle, the supervisor handed out the forms and said, here we are, take some time to fill it out. Deposit boxes are in the break room, they were locked, complete it, submit it into that box. We did online survey for everybody who has email account, and then a paper form survey for the frontline staff who do not have email, and collected all the information within a week's time, and then evaluated, compared the findings from this year's survey to the 2018 survey to see whether we had gained some improvements, whether we're seeing the same pattern of areas of opportunities or strengths. And happy to report, and we're really actually very pleased to see that we did see some great improvements in certain critical areas. And those were the areas of teamwork, accountability, and recognition for good work. And so just to share a little bit of what we have done since between 2018 and 2023, which we feel in part is due to, it provides for the positive results. One is that we've rewritten several of the policies, personnel policies, to ensure that there's clarity and understanding and then enforcement. One basic policy that was a little convoluted and was not being consistently enforced was the attendance policy. So once the policy was revised, communicated, and then ensured everybody's managing and enforcing policies consistently, I think that helps with the ratings that we have previously seen in regards to accountability and teamwork. Those are the areas that we had seen the most improvement from 2018 to 2023. Also, we revamped the employee recognition program to encourage more peer-to-peer recognition, and also for more timely manager to employee recognition. And we formed a employee task force, which included representatives from various departments, frontline staff, to look at the employee recognition program that was in existence and hear from them. What is it that you value about a peer? What is it that you feel deserves recognition? And how would you like to see the recognition opportunities be provided for you to recognize your peers? So that was one massive renovation of a program that we did back in 2020, I believe. Provided more supervisor training to our frontline supervisors on performance management and leadership. And also the communications team has partnered with us with HR to provide more education of our different services and programs to our own internal staff. So essentially replicating the education programs that they offer to the public with people coming on site for tours. We, with Felipe's support last year or a year and a half ago, we implemented internal employee tours and have had them scheduled every month since for the last year in order to allow employees or give employees exposure to areas or services that the district is providing that they were really unaware of, even though they may have been working here for 15 years. So I think that has also helped in having employees feel that they are part of the bigger picture and that they are part of something great. GM huddles was also something new that I think has helped our rankings for the internal communications. So Felipe has introduced a new method for sharing information, taking information to the employees at their workspace. And this could be what we call GM huddles. And it could be a specific topic that he wants to ensure that everybody is informed of. For example, recently with the new hire of the assistant director of operations, he went out to every department, and sometimes we bring them to get a couple departments together at the start of their shifts, 5 a.m. or whatever time they start, and he shares the news with them and gives them a chance to comment, give feedback. And I think that has been really well received. The employees feel, I think they really appreciate having to hear information about the organization, new information that's happening directly from Felipe. And also he ensures that the message is consistently received by all employees. So these are all initiatives that I think have helped improve some of the areas that we had previously seen really low rankings in. And while we have seen great improvement in some areas, there's still some opportunities for us to continue to work on. And as I shared in the past, the engaging with employees, ensuring that we have teamwork and employee recognition programs that are valuable. It's an ongoing process where we're really never complete in taking that pulse. How are they feeling? Is this really working? So we're going to look at the areas that we've identified as opportunities for improvement, share them with the full board, with the all employees, and then also maybe involve maybe create another task force to hear from frontline staff. How do we make improvements in these areas? We recognize that this is just a sampling of our employees. This is not all employees who are providing this response, but we are feel pretty comfortable that it is representative of the majority of employees. And you know, the two open-ended questions also allow for employees to provide any other feedback that maybe wasn't covered in the 12 questions that were included or affirmations that were included in the form. And the open-ended feedback that we received solidified some of the responses. There was a lot of comments related to the issue with the scales lines. We rolled this out right about the time when the lines were you know, down Charlie Benson Road. And employees were aware that, you know, and they commented on that was a problem, that something needed to be fixed. So there was that type of feedback that we collected in the open-ended questions. And then one other comment that I read from this is just one employee, but I felt that it was a very, very thoughtful comment that I felt this person really cares about the organization and our mission. And they're very thoughtful in providing this comment, that I included it as something that we really need to continue to look to improve and to live. And I'll read you the comment as written. So it says, my main concern is that I feel like the message we portray to the public about ourselves, environmental stewardship, is not widely adopted in the ReGen culture. Our image to the public is as leaders in environmental sustainability, and we aim to inspire community members to participate with reducing consumption and proper waste sorting. So she's, I'm assuming it's a she, is suggesting that we implement initiatives within our organization that are in support of a zero waste culture. So we have a long ways to go, but I wanted you to be aware that it's been brought to the surface, and it is included in our strategic plan. And Zoe and the entire leadership team is going to be looking for opportunities to make those improvements within the organization. So I'm open for any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you. This is really interesting, and you know, it's that 75% participation rate. That's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you say not everybody participated, but still, that's
yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I guess it's kind of a cynical question, but I'm sorry. And I do appreciate the comments about within the organization trying to really demonstrate that, you know, that we're trying to reuse, reduce, recycle and all that, and you know, not use disposable items,
Yeah.
one-time use items, I would imagine along those lines. That's a great idea. But just how, I mean, I know it seems when people come to work here, they do work here overall a long time. They like it here, and that's the great, you know, so there's a lot of great things about this organization. But I'm wondering, out of this large group of people, the current 109 versus 93 in 2019, how fresh are these employees? I mean, how new are they? Is it a pretty new crop, relatively speaking? Like we just went through a hiring stage and they're, you know.
Yes. So as you may recall, in 2020, we offered the voluntary early retirement as a cost saving measure after COVID.
Mhm.
And we did see a lot of retirements that year. And so to your question, yes, we have no way of knowing, you know, because it's anonymous. They complete it online, who's responding, but with the high percentage of the respondents being from the MERC, we know that the bulk of that group are within 5 years, 5 to 6 years of hire. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
representative of a new culture kind of coming in. People are excited to be here. They're comparing their experience to the district, to their former experiences at other employers. Tend to see a lot of positive feedback from the newer employees. More, unfortunately, more than the longer term employees who've been here a little longer.
Okay, yeah, that's what I think it's, kind of what I was thinking, but overall, I mean, it's the current voice, it's the current snapshot that's important, and I think it's overall, it's, I think a great improvement overall.
Thank you.
Thank you for this information.
Two things that occurred to me as you were talking. The fact that employees at the MERF were given the opportunity at the beginning of the trip to fill this out. That might be a good template.
Yeah.
For all of the groups. Give them the time to do it right then, because we all know when you take it home to do it later, it often doesn't happen. And then just a question, when there is an opening at the district, is that advertised to all the present employees so they know about it and have an opportunity to apply for that?
Yes, so we post internally for 1 week. And we do not accept applications from any external candidate until after the initial pool of candidates, internal candidates are evaluated by the hiring manager. And at that point, decision is made as to whether we have internal candidates who meet the minimum qualifications or not. And if the answer is no, then we do open external. Our goal is really to ensure that we have the best talent for the district, for the jobs. We do have a very high rate of promotions from within. Many of our employees at lead and senior roles started at the bottom of their career journey or path.
No, I think that's really admirable, and I wonder, do you ever ask managers in departments to, when you have an opening and you put out the qualifications, to let you know if they have an employee that they have really seen go above and beyond, that they would recommend to apply for the job, because sometimes people are shy about changing, and a little push from their supervisor who said, I think you're doing a really great job and this position is open. And
Yeah, I
you
think
may
that-
want to think about it. It's sort of it's just a little extra attaboy to encourage someone to try for another position.
I know that does happen. It's not something that HR can take credit for, but I am aware that managers are, when they are recommending and encouraging their team members to apply when they see vacancies. I know that from my own experience, I believe the former director of operations regularly did that. He went out and encouraged, and I believe Jay, you do the same. When you see an opening, encourage people.
Well, and the last thing I wanted to say is, I know Carmel had a 30-some year employee recently retire. And during her exit interview, one of her comments to our city manager was, why don't you ask your long-term employees more often how they would solve this problem? And she said, we know a lot. And if we're not asked, there are some people who are reluctant to volunteer, but some of them have really great ideas because it's something they have dealt with through many years. And this woman had to have had every position in the city you could ever have had. I mean, she knew everything. And I think she was trying to get the message that she would have welcomed being asked a little bit more of, how would you approach the problem? Do you have something that goes on that we may not know when we're at this level that you see every day?
Yeah, that is a great point. And we, as I mentioned in the presentation, one way to do that is through employee focus groups, and we do have experience in doing that. When we have a issue or a problem that we're trying to solve, then we really want to hear employee input. So bringing in employees from the front line who are out there doing the work. We have a brainstorming session scheduled later this month for 2 departments to come together to work on an issue revolving both departments. How do we, what do you need in order to be more effective, more productive in doing this job? What's working well, what's not working? So that is, I think, very valuable, and we do, maybe there are more opportunities for us to do that, but we have done that, and we will continue to look for those opportunities to bring employees into the solutions solving.
Well, I was happy to see that you actually do this. I think it's a wonderful idea, and more organizations to do the same, because it does show that you want to hear. The second step of that is actually showing them you heard.
So I just have a comment, you know, I do this frequently. I ask the question, well, what do you guys think? And the first time I ask the question to a certain person, our response is, I've been here for X amount of time. I've never been asked what I think. So it's very important for the employees to do it. So we'll continue to stretch ourselves on awareness, right? And sometimes they might have the answer, sometimes they may not. And it's
Yeah.
for us to make that decision, but I think the awareness that we're searching for it amongst our leadership and our core teams is that we're exploring those situations with the employees that sometimes don't feel heard enough. So I appreciate your comment.
And do your employees get the feedback?
So we wanted to present it to the personnel committee and the board first, and then we will be rolling it out to all employees.
At our last general manager, huddle, we included that we completed the survey, that we were waiting to come and get feedback from the directors, and that we return with our findings where we're gonna focus at. So there's awareness that the survey's been completed.
Well, I think that's good. And then the areas for improvement, those could lead to certain particular goals.
Yeah.
And I think that's so valuable for the employees to see that they were heard, and there's going to be an attempt to respond. I mean, that's very valuable.
It's what changes the culture.
It is. It is, and it's what makes people value their work more, because they feel heard and part of,
Yes.
not just showing up. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything, Wendy?
No, I appreciate that we really invest in and care about our employees. ReGen is amazing in that regard.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah, I think it was a great survey. I think you're doing a great job. You're very comprehensive, I think, in your approach. And in the district's approach. Yeah, I really like it. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me, which I think you're doing, there's this retired Navy SEAL guy, Jaco something or another. He's actually produced some leadership books that I find very interesting. But in the little snippet that they had on Facebook, it says, he says, I've been asked on his SEAL teams, so do you give a lot of commands when you're going into, he says, no, I train them all to be leaders. And so I don't have to tell them anything. We just perform what we've been trained to do. So, and there's another book I like, it's called Intrinsic Motivation. When you make people more a part of what's going on, they feel more important with what they're doing. I'm still curious about that strong disagree guy down there.
Yeah.
I don't,
It was all the way down. It was all the
Well,
way.
and you wonder if it's he's just being a smart ass or something. I don't know what he's doing, but clearly he's missing something. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
why are you so, the grumbler,
Yeah. I don't know.
anyway. So Does that conclude that?
Yes.
And then I guess the last would be, staff reports.
Yeah, I got some general manager comments. Thank you.
Yeah, that one.
We are working on agreement with California Department of Parks and Recreation. We're approaching the end of a 3-year agreement. It was worth about 25,000. They didn't use all the funds, so they're reducing it down to 15,000. Currently, Helen is working on that, and we will get that completed and it'll come back to the board in the near future. We're also working on agreement with Waste Management for single stream recycling. The WN single stream agreement is set to expire, so we're working on a template agreement that we worked with Rob's team on to review, and guide has helped us as well. And it's really an approach to get all our single stream agreements to read the same. And so this is the first one that's set to expire, so we're set to kick off that initiation of this agreement will reflect on the one with Republic and any of the other agencies that are using our material recycling facility. So that will come at the October board meeting. We also supported the West End celebration in San City. We had a wonderful time at the West End celebration, where ReGen Monterey has been tabling for many years to educate the public and the community about the services and recycling questions that are always, seem to be at these events. This year, we continue to push and encourage the food scrap collection. We gave out about 400 food scrap kitchen pails to local households at the event. We also were able to give out 1,000 reusable steel cups. We were happy for them to be used. And we want to thank those businesses for their generosity and commitment for our sustainability at the West End. I like to thank the Pavet team. They organized a volunteer relays. We had Director Torres, the board, Ramos, a lot of people in attendance to support. And, comments from there was, Zoe was so busy, we couldn't even get her attention. She had 20 people in front of her. We also got a comment that stood out to me, and it was outside of just the education, was thank you guys for putting traffic control at the lines. It assists with frustration and anger. You guys are aware of the problem. You guys are working on it. So getting that type of feedback. We also had a customer that came in and used our facility several times. She was a new user and had great appreciation for our scale house. Brought a little small bouquet of some sunflowers, and our scale house supervisor insisted she could not receive them, could not receive them, could not receive them. Customer went around, came into the building, found someone else, left the flowers and took off. So, we followed our policies to a T, but the appreciation and the work that our workforce is performing is being acknowledged from our constituents out there. So just wanted to appreciate the comments and able to share that with the team. Next item, paint care reuse container amendments. The district or ReGen Monterey, a household hazardous waste facility, receives over 25,000 gallons of paint. And from that total, approximately 40% of that paint is reusable, and it's reused by our public for, and it's offered for free. And we are working with the paint care. They're going to be purchasing us through an amendment, a 20-yard container to hold some of these materials for us in a storage location that is safe. And so it's an opportunity for us as well. I want to thank Jay and Jimmy for their support with executing on the container amendment. I wanted to share with the board members that we have faced some website security issues. Staff is working on the website with the website provider to make sure that our concerns are being addressed with our website security. So we got hacked into it. We're being asked to do some certain function. I had trouble distributing our board package because of it. So we're working on it. And I just appreciate everybody's acknowledgement around it. We are also working on a California Regional Resilience Planning Grant application. It's roughly estimated at 650,000, a grant application that was filed last week jointly with Monterey One Water and ReGen Monterey. It's an opportunity for us to get some planning money. We are concluding our feasibility study We should be getting the results toward the end of December, mid-December. And we are already in line for another grant to take us into the second round of studies so that we can get into the plan and design phase at some point with some of the items that are a result of the initial study. So we can get some of those results. Again, the feasibility intent was to look at all the byproducts and find the best uses for them. And so I'm really excited that they will be delivered in sometime in December. And that we bring that back out to the board, and we really like to hear back from the board and from the staff to really decide what pathways are we gonna take after we see the feasibility results. Because there's still work to be performed around it, but want to thank Guy. He's been a big support for our agency to make sure that we plan good enough to get the result that we're expecting, and he's been a pillar of that, although it's a difficult position to be in, because it does create pathways that are maybe a little bit different, but we continue to work on our partnership so that we can look for the best result for our agency and the agency next door. We also had a meeting and greet yesterday with the Director of Public Works for District of Columbia, Washington, DC. They're expected to come and visit the West Coast, September 20th. They'll be visiting San Francisco, San Jose, and they wanted to stop by at ReGen Monterey to look at all the technologies. They're looking at opportunities to reinvent their wheel. Currently, they're using waste to energy facilities and private sector for the landfilling aspect of their collection process. So I'm excited that, you know, we are the pillar nationwide for some of the technologies and innovations, and we continue to be at that forefront of that. And we also conducted a tour for the city of Watsonville. They hired a new director of public works, Courtney, and they came out and visited last week in full stride, and we were able to accommodate them and give them a tour, and they left here just amazed with the technology and some of the things. So they're looking at it for support on some of the future endeavors they want to take. And that's all I have, Jeff. Thank you.
All right. So I guess we go to closed session.